Hey, Mynoo, you taught me all the tools, the tips of the trade. And now, as I said to all that attended, this information, this wisdom is to be shared. So you learn it, you integrate it, and then, out to the world it goes. And that's where the expansion happens. And yes, I think people are fascinated. And those that don't know you want to know more. So all of our friends out there in Facebook land, please join us. We are here every Thursday evening with Mynoo Maryel for she will always share some I was going to say tad bit of information, but it's way more than that. It's a huge awakening. Usually it's like a big aha moment, and we get to hear that every Wednesday night. And so here we are for the sixth commandment, where we will be learning about something that I have really studied more recently with Mynoo, with the idea of sustainable is what we know, but regenerative is something new. It's a new way of looking at it. So I can't wait to hear the wisdom around that, Mynoo.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing that as well. It was quite an eye-opening for me as well, Catherine. So I'm going to share more as we get nearer and more people join in. I just need to do some sharing on Facebook Live. So just bear with me while I do that. You carry on, hold the fort, Catherine.
We'll be in the background. We'll be talking a little bit about you, Mynoo, and all of the magic that you create behind the scenes. So all of you who are joining us this evening, this is really a remarkable time for you to, what I say, do the work. It's really like the play, because this is where you get to expand on those things that interest you. Maybe you don't know everything about them. So we get to just sit back, relax, and let Mynoo take us on a magical journey every time. So I've been studying with Mynoo. For those of you who I don't know, I'm Catherine Hollis Peters, and I have worked with Mynoo Maryel for, we think it's around 10 years now. I was fortunate enough to go on what we call a journey into miracles. And it was remarkable. My life completely changed. And what's so interesting is, it's not stagnant. So we get to go through this process of shifts and changes. And once we can embrace that, it is really a magical journey. And so I love to come back to the master for more wisdom and then integrate that into my life. And then fortunately, we can all share that in different ways now, especially with the media that we have available to us, the digital world. So here we are this Thursday evening, and Mynoo will be taking us on yet another journey. And we'll be talking about, we use the word sustainable a lot. That's one of my favorite words. We want something that's sustainable. But there's a different twist that I think you're going to be very interested to hear from Mynoo, which is the next level. It's like up leveling. Do you want to share any more? I know we want to wait because we actually officially start at 5:30. That would be Pacific time. So we're really early. We could just talk about whatever because we're live and streaming, and we have a good almost 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, I suggest that we wait for the sixth commandment when I cover it. What I would love to do is to just reiterate the context of these commandments, which are worth re-engaging with. So, we really have entered a new world. It's live, it's kicking. People who've been working with me for many years, and you've certainly heard me say this over and over, that the planet is set to rebirth itself, and it was going to happen 4 years from now, and 2 years from now, and in 2020 is when it did occur. Now, the key thing here is when the planet has rebirthed itself in the past, it has chosen to start over. And this time, what we wanted to do was to have the planet make the choice to transform itself rather than have to start over. And there were many, many, many light workers, as are called in the spiritual circles, playing their part. I mean, and we've been working at it for the last 14 years or so, possibly even longer than that. And certainly in the last 2 years, I have had a very concerted focus on this. And the planet did choose to transform itself, which meant it was not going to start over. And that choice was made around the middle of May this year. So literally we were on that point of it could start over until May this year. What I also had seen was that all elements were going to play out in their full might to bring about this starting over situation. And when the planet chose to transform itself, then the way in which these elements showed up was quite different. Rather than the whole world being taken over by fires and floods and earthquakes and stuff, there were certain areas that became the node points, if you like, for those elements to be anchored on the planet. So, fire occurred it began and it occurred in its full might in that whole region of Australia. After fire was going to be the air element, and the air element came through in the form of the coronavirus. And people have heard me talk about it is, I call it the virus of the crown. It certainly enabled humans to go back into themselves and bring about a crown opening where humans recollect and reconnect to the core values of themselves, what's really important to them. And they focus, because of the lockdowns, the social distancing and social isolation even, and this occurring world over, there are so many indicators to suggest that the divine has taken over what is playing out in this whole corona situation. As humans receded to themselves, it gave nature the ability to reclaim itself. It also gave humans the ability to reclaim themselves. Literally, just like nature was released, free to return to its originating intent, humans, if they chose to, when they went into themselves. And there are so many. The good news is that not everybody did it, but there's sufficient critical mass of us that really did go into ourselves so that we could emerge into the truth of who we are. And as a result, the vibration of the planet started to have a greater mix of the uplifting vibrations. And the work that we do here, the work that we do on Beyond Meditation that happens every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, the work that we do in the Journey to Miracles and the Federation 100 and others who are doing amazing work like this. The expansion that you're taking out, Catherine, through what you have now created and co-created with your community, all of that helps expand this vibe, and once the transformation decision was made by the planet, then it was important to set up the new foundation upon which this new world will be built. And once the foundation was set, it was time to educate people about what makes up this foundation. And the foundation is what is described in these 10 commandments for the new world. These are not ways of, these are not commands as such, even though I'm using the term commandment, and it really is being used to emphasize that this is like the hallmark of the next era that we are all living in and living into. And these are the features of the foundation, and we are in the midst of that discussion and revelation. So today we will be talking about the 6th commandment. Just a very quick reiteration for those who will be joining us only through Facebook. The 10 commandments, the first commandment is unknown is the known. The second one is uncertainty is certain. The third one is change is constant. The fourth one is it's switch from survival onto thriving. So it's like literally death of survival, and it's the thriving instinct that counts. Let me just get the 10 commandments out so I can reiterate them. It's so wonderful to be so real here. Here we go.
It's remarkable. You'll have to tell us, Mynoo, how these came forth. Like,
Yeah, we can
come to
talk.
you. Yeah, when you're finished with them, I'd love to hear how you actually downloaded all this information.
Well, we can talk about that now. How I downloaded this information. The how is I'm engaged in playing my part in the makeup of this new world, and I'm playing out and living the calling of my soul, which is to have expecting and accepting miracles become the norm for everyone. And if they are to become the norm for everyone, then everyone not only knows what a miracle is, they also know how to make it occur for themselves. A miracle is where something beautiful occurs that makes your heart sing. Your heart is beating, that's the song of the heart, so a miracle is right here. So when it comes to the 10 Commandments, what I was seeking was, okay, get it. We are entering the new world. We get it. We get that all the elements are out there unleashed in their full might. And then we have the whole corona phenomenon. I also get the power of something like this tiny little thing that you cannot even see through your naked eye, has created some sort of a unification effect across the world, where the whole world and all the humans in it are becoming one family. And there is a recognition and realization that is occurring, because nature already was one family. Nature is nature. Trees are connected. It was humans that were creating that separation. We created the boundaries. We created the nation states and stuff. So I could see that there was the hand of the divine behind what was happening with the corona phenomenon. So for me, the way I work is I put out questions that I want to see answered in the context of really playing out my gig, as I call it, expecting and accepting miracles as the norm. And it was in that context that I said, okay, just guide us, what's going on, show us what this new world looks like. And initially there were these glimpses of, unknown is the known, uncertainty is certain. So then my question was, well, what do we do with this? How do we work with this thing? And that's when the whole piece about, okay, how do you work with this? How do you support yourself and each other? We'll go through the 10 Commandments. And that's how the 10 Commandments landed. And then when we started doing the sessions, at each session I received, how do you work with each of the commandments? I didn't know that there was so much richness in shaping a life that was so rich and abundant and full of abundance, as you call it, or and it feels amazing, given that unknown is the known and uncertainty is certain, and all of that changes, all of that is going on. And each of the commandments and how you work with it is what gets covered in these sessions. And it's practical.
I wanted to ask you, make sure I have rights, because we're also going to be letting a couple people in on Zoom, but I can't see them yet. So we're still over here in Facebook. They'll be coming shortly. So yes, then I can handle all the behind the scenes for you, so you can stay in your majesty and allow all this information to come forth. I just want to say, Mynoo, I remember when the pandemic had hit. It was very early March, I believe, or mid-March. And I remember not knowing where to go, who to call, what to think. And you were just so certain it was all going to be okay. And, it was going to take its time, of course, but you were like one step ahead. And I remember that is what inspired us to do these Thursday night calls. It was right after that. And boy, you certainly have not failed us. So it's been an amazing journey. Now it's been so many months. Time flies.
I know. And lo and behold, I even got the coronavirus. It's quite. And even though I had not left the house, many people have been going out shopping and stuff. I had not left the house, and I still got it. So
for good reason. I'm going to go ahead and let some of our our Zoom friends in as we continue on. And yeah, it is amazing. I think so often we don't realize when these things come up and, you know, we resist them, and there's always a reason, isn't there?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for coming tonight. We are streaming both on Zoom and Facebook Live. Good to see everyone. So continue on, Mynoo, and I'll be back here letting everyone on in the background.
Great to see you, Karen. Hi, Helene and David. We meet again after a long time.
It's always nice on the Thursday evenings to see our little family comes together. And it's so great to watch the replay on Facebook Live. And those of you who are watching it live, welcome. Thank you for coming. And stay tuned. This is really powerful information, so you don't want to miss it. I know when we're on Facebook Live, so often we tend to like go on and then look and then just jump off because we don't know what it's really all about. You want to stay. So if you're here on Facebook Live, stay with this because you are in for a treat if you stumbled upon it. We have people from everywhere. We have India, we have New York, we have LA. And I don't know. That must be Asha. I think I recognize the voice. It's good to see everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And I see some faces from the past that we haven't seen in a while. It's so great to have you all. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Jen. Welcome, Danette. Really good, and Jill. So good to see you all. So Mynoo, if you want to continue on, I'll just work the back room here.
Okay, great. Yes, so welcome everyone. We were just having a chat on Facebook Live about where it all began, and Catherine asked the question, where did the 10 Commandments come from? And I was just answering that. So here we are now on our 6th commandment, which is, so we've got a set of these commandments which are all about switching. So, you know, the first set of commandments are all about, you know, like, this is it, you know, uncertainty, certain, and change is constant, and unknown is unknown. This is it. Now we're entering the whole switch from to. So this is the second of the switch pieces that we are working through. This one is all about switching from sustainable to regenerative. And actually, if I look at it, there is so much that hasn't even been thought of as sustainable in the way it was designed. And yet Spirit is choosing to use the phrase, this commandment, the 6th commandment, is all about a switch from sustainable to regenerative. And this is coming through as a switch from sustainable to regenerative, because when you follow on from the previous switch, from survival to thriving, even in a mindset space, even though you may not have taken any action towards thriving yet, just the mindset switch actually lands you in a space of sustainable. You know, you think thriving, just like when you think thriving, survival is taken care of, and you act thriving, survival is done, you land in sustainable. So whatever it is that you're creating is sustainable. Now, as a commandment for the new world, what is being talked about here is that it isn't just about things being sustainable. It's about whatever it is, whatever choices you make for them to be regenerative. Regenerative means that whatever it is that gets created has the capacity and the ability to regenerate itself. And, you know, if you were to look at yourself, and if you, let's say, took on a practice, a daily practice, you know, and it could be a daily practice where you did a journaling of whatever it is that you appreciate, whatever it is that you're grateful for. And you begin your morning practice the first day, and you're writing it down, and you're writing it down. You're generating what it is that you're grateful for. And it feels really powerful. And it's as if one thing you write leads to another, that sets up your day, and your day becomes full of more things that you can be grateful for. You come in the second day, you start writing a gratitude list. And, initially it's exciting, and then sometimes and often people go into repeating the same things again. And then a few days down the line, it's like, oh, I'm actually saying the same things. Maybe I could just copy from the previous list. Or they go into, or maybe I just don't need to do this what I've already written. Just a couple of things would do. And then it would be, but do I really need to write it? I've already done it. I've already got it all. Now, you're now moving away from the regenerative experience. And you land up in a space where you stop continuing your gratitude journal. And then a few years down the line, you hear somebody else like me or Catherine talk about it, or a movie like The Secret comes out, and people say, oh, yes, you must get going with it. And then you say, yeah, I remember the last time I did it. It was amazing. So off you go again. But the point I'm making here is, remember the time you were generating it for the first time, how powerful it was. So what if that is how you lived your life? Now, what does that mean? That is how you lived your life. What does that mean even? It means, the first thing that it means, there are 4 foundations of switching from sustainable to regenerative. And this leads me on to the first foundation. And this foundation piece is, you honor your own worthiness. How do you honor your own worthiness? By engaging in this task. And remember, honoring your own worthiness is the definition of dignity. That is you embracing your dignity. Now, how does regenerative do that? When you engage in consciously becoming aware of whatever it is that you put your attention to, whatever it is that you use any amount of your resources towards, it could be intellect, it could be energy, it could be affection, it could be money, it could be other assets. Whatever it is that you put your resources to, you do it in a way that enables what you have created to regenerate itself. What that says to you is, you are the one that has the power to create that which generates itself. What other examples exist on the planet of what has been created that generates itself? Plants, trees, forests, other living beings. Who created those? We call that energy the creator. Well, what that says is, you are for the first time very consciously acknowledging your powers as a creator and embracing your power as a creator when you enter the space of being regenerative. So the first foundation of that is, whatever it is that you put your attention to and any amount of resources towards, have it be regenerative. You can start practicing how you do this by simple practices like journaling, creating your gratitude list, creating your appreciation list, creating your miracle journal, as I call it, and generating it every single day. And really, literally, even if it is repeating the same thing that you might have done before, that you might have written like 10 times previously? What does it actually feel like right now when you are inspired to write it again? Generate that experience. And when you generate that experience, it anchors the vibration of what you are about to write, at the level that it was first generated. Now that's a practice to just get that regenerative muscle working. If you are consciously and actually ask the question of yourself, what I'm about to do now and how I'm about to go about it, does that make it regenerative so that I don't have to go back and keep focusing my attention on it? When the first jungle gets created, the creator doesn't get stuck in that one jungle. Once it's created, it regenerates itself. We can move, the creator can move on and create something else. So what if we actually did that with everything that we know we are involved in creating? So the first foundation is honoring your own worthiness. That is something that gets anchored. This whole piece, so many of you here are people who've been involved and engaged in my passion for bringing about that awareness of dignity. This is the World Dignity Forum in action. Each week, each time we get together, we are going deeper and deeper and anchoring, putting a stake in the ground for honoring our own worthiness. And it takes one person at a time for each one of us to start having that impact. And then for nature to literally reclaim dignity for itself. So the first foundation is the anchoring of dignity. When you regenerate consciously, you do so by honoring your own worthiness, because you become aware of whatever energy you give, your energy is worth it. You are worthy of honor, of being honored, and you honor yourself by applying a multiplier effect to every engagement that you put your attention to. The second foundational pillar that gets enriched and becomes a foundation that continuously motivates and inspires us to keep regenerating is the foundation of conscious awareness. I'm using the phrase conscious awareness, and really what I'm doing here is giving this powerful phrase to the acknowledgement of our mind. So much energy, so many dialogues, so much conversation has gone in as more and more people have gone towards finding solutions and respite to their stress about, let's calm the mind, and it's the illusion of the mind and all that, Whilst some of that may be true, the mind is not honoring the presence of the mind in a way that you engage the mind will always take you off track, will keep you at best generating something that's sustainable. When you actually become regenerative, there's a conscious awareness quotient that rises, and as your conscious awareness quotient rises, your mind becomes relaxed. And you know what happens? You enter the space of stillness. And you can be in the midst of complete chaos and still be still and be very consciously aware. What does that do to you? You know, things like being fearful about some stuff that you didn't know, you know, feeling anguish because you just don't know what is certain, what isn't certain, or how much longer am I going to be, you know, I'm going to be locked in. When would be the next time I will share a meal around a dining table with friends? Conscious awareness engages your mind, and it starts to give you an understanding of really the fullness and the richness of your life. Without your mind going, that's just illusion. It is not the illusion of the mind. You know, it is the illusions that we get bombarded with by our mind so that we can continue to survive. You know, and we remain focused on survival. The mind doesn't want you to just go somewhere and, you know, become lax or become, you know, irresponsible. So conscious awareness is a very powerful anchoring that happens, that provides a stillness for the mind. And that occurs when you are engaged in regenerative as a way of moving forward. The mind is a masterful regenerator, if there was one. There is so much to be learned from the mind. Why would you want to shut it off? Why would you want to put it to one side? It regenerates your survival instinct constantly to such an extent that it's really, really tough to shake it off. And how wonderful that one of the commandments is a switch from survival to thriving, and thriving means survival is taken care of. So it brings the mind along. There's a richness of experience that the mind has developed that is worth tapping into when you go forth and start to implement your intuition. Where the mind takes over is when you stop honoring it. And conscious awareness is essential for, you know, be engaging in implementation of your visions. And conscious awareness is the foundation of engaging the mind and bringing it along with you. And when you do that, you allow the mind to occupy the space that it occupies, as opposed to the one that's just running the show. It doesn't want to run the show. The fourth foundation that gets enabled, no, the third foundation that gets enabled when you are engaged in regenerative as the lens with which you create. It is a foundation of co-creation. And what does co-creation enable? Co-creation literally is, you know, 1 and 1 could be 11, not 2. So this co-creation foundation, what it actually also enables for you is a habit of discernment. Discernment initially of what it is that you are creating. Can this be co-created? Is a question you ask. And at best, you are co-creating with your creator. And what if you consciously co-created with conscious awareness with other fellow human beings, or consciously co-created with nature? The bottom line is you can try and figure it out, processize it, or you can literally use the regenerative approach. The moment you are engaged in a regenerative approach to creating anything, you are a co-creator automatically. That's what I mean by, engaging in the shift from sustainable to regenerative automatically is strengthening these foundations. The fourth foundation that gets strengthened when you are engaged in regenerative is the foundation of prosperity. Prosperity is made up of a combination of various elements come together to bring about prosperity. And the combination of things that comes together to make up prosperity includes wealth, includes money, includes cash flow, includes your health, includes your relationships, includes a mindset of prosperity and the vibe of abundance. It includes flow. So you can imagine engaging in regenerative approach to creating anything strengthens the foundation of prosperity. Now, why is that relevant? It is relevant because even in the new world, you continue engaging in your partnership with the universe. And the partnership with the universe is an honoring of the universe to work in the way it works. The modus operandi of the universe is a multiplier effect. It applies a multiplier effect to your vibrations. So as you enrich at a foundation level, you're literally anchoring, and at a foundation level, you're continuing to enrich it. And it is a foundation of prosperity, then the vibe that is being multiplied by the universe is more prosperity. And there is an ongoing flow. And you know what? The ongoing flow is limitless. Regenerative. When we are creating something that is sustainable, when we are creating something that is to fix a particular issue, that's like you do just enough that'll fix that. When you're creating something that is sustainable, you ensure that there are checks and balances and boundaries that ensure that whatever it is that you're creating can actually be sustained. It won't just get destroyed by something else. When you're creating something that is regenerative, means it's going to regenerate in any environment, in any situation. So you can't even, you actually back off from putting your attention on creating boundaries. There are certain rules of the regenerative game, yes. But your attention is very focused on creating something so it regenerates, finding happiness. How do you find happiness? So happiness regenerates itself. For example, right? Now, you can find happiness in a fix-it mode. Open a bottle of champagne and have it if that makes you happy. Or listen to a piece of music that makes you happy. That's great. How do you create a sustainable? You choose a particular area of your life that you can create and it'll sustain. You can do it in a sustainable way. So anytime you go there, so for example, having a date night, that's something you can sustain that. It gives you, it gives you happiness on those on those date nights. Well, if you're being regenerative calls you to treat happiness for what it is. Happiness is a decision. It isn't about, you don't do happiness. You don't do happiness. You do happiness, it's at best sustainable. But if you want it to be regenerative, it's a decision. You just make that decision once and for all, right? From now on, I make the decision that I am happy. Now, once you've made the decision, it calls for a whole variety of actions. What kind of actions do you now engage in? Actions that give you joy. But happiness, being regenerative, is a decision. And it's regenerative. You don't have to go into happiness again. It occurs as a consequence of you engaging in joy. So having said all of that, those are the 4 foundations that get enriched. And how many areas of your life do they impact? Every area of your life. You can apply the power and the strength of these 4 foundations in your business, in your career, as much as you can in your strive for embodied enlightenment. As much as you can for your journey towards full spectrum well-being. As much as you can for the journey into, exquisite enchanting relationships. You could use with the strength and power of these foundations. If you're not feeling very prosperous, if money is severely depleted or health is severely diminished, it's difficult to feel regenerative. And what if you choose to do it anyway? Knowing that every act that you take on, coming from a space that I'm going to do this in this way, because doing it in this way has it be regenerative, you are immediately strengthening those 4 foundation pieces. When I started practicing this for myself, and it was wonderful to be in this lockdown period and this crazy amount of social distancing, and then to have the period of social isolation, having had the coronavirus myself, like complete isolation, gave me such a wonderful opportunity to practice regenerative. Because I was implementing that in little chunks, bite-sized chunks. So I'm going to go into a state of rest. And I'm going to rest for, for however long it takes. So, applying the regenerative piece got me to, not put any time on the amount of rest I was going to take, but I was going to rest as long as it was going to create that regenerative vitality in me. This was particularly when I was going through the corona tiredness. The first day began with 3 hours. And by the 3rd day, it was like literally 3 minutes of, I would close my eyes and I would go into that very deep state of rest. It's as if my own, body and mind and soul, everything was operating together. And they were creating these solutions. I just declared an intention and became conscious about taking away ways in which I would have done it in the past. But being very consciously aware. So, when I had the buildup of the virus attacks for 3 of those days, again, it was a regenerative approach. Popping in some pills was not going to make the solution be regenerative. So yes, I did have all my devices with me. So I knew that my oxygen level was fine. If it was going to go down to a drastic level, then, I had a 1-click dial for this emergency number that would bring in the ambulance and take me away. But I didn't need to do any of that. I was consciously aware, right? You see that foundation? I took the mind with me. It would have gone berserk if I didn't. When I was experimenting with, applying some of my deep breathing techniques to flush that region with oxygen, where I was feeling the buildup of the virus, which was my throat. And within minutes, it was settled. I became very consciously aware of implementing this regenerative approach to creativity. So I was creating these immune boosting drinks and salads and all sorts of stuff. And I'm sure because I was doing it in this way, even though I might have lost my sense of smell and taste, it returned very fast. I don't even recall that I lost it. And that came from applying this regenerative approach and doing it in bite-sized chunks. It's a very big concept, yes. And people have been talking about regenerative agriculture for a while. Reforestation is one of the key strategies for that regenerativeness. So it's been seen as a really big environmental solution for so many things. I'm saying it's a solution for everything. For everything, little things, minute things, and the big things. This world that we live in, the world for you, for me, for all of us, it begins with you and it ends with you. So applying bull force to solve a problem that is so humongous outside of you, well, let's find a magnanimous solution for all problems that may exist within you. So as your inner world transforms, you will actually be able to see the application of these outside. And so much of the outside will start to regenerate by itself because of the vibe that you will be emanating as you engage in regenerative behavior. Because what happens is, remember, everything is a vibration game. So when you are engaged in regenerative, you're very present to the abundance of all that is. You're present to the richness. You're honoring your own worthiness. You're present to the worthiness of others, right? So those are all these amazing vibes you're emanating, not because you're thinking them, not because you're writing them, you're actually engaged in them at an action level. So what happens is when you are emanating those vibes, it becomes like a magnet for that which enriches those vibes to come to you. So you start magnetizing more and more. What happens as you're magnetizing, your vibration of regenerative limitlessness, because that's what regenerative does, it delivers limitlessness. It starts to multiply. So one person engaging in it expands, and the outreach of each one of us is now so large that everyone that we have ever touched is impacted by that. It's a very cool strategy, actually. Very cool strategy. I'm feeling tired. Okay. I can have Red Bull. And that'll fix it. I can have a dollop of sugar stuff. That'll give me that fix-it sugar rush. Well, I could have coconut water. That might start to remove this tiredness and make it a little bit more sustainable. Well, how can you address tiredness as what actions can you take that will ensure that when you take that action, the vitality that gets generated from that action regenerates itself. What does that look like? Now that combo will be your combination, you know? We can exchange this with each other. Maybe we should do that in our WhatsApp group, you know? Our regenerative strategies, choices. We can literally go on a regenerative exchange. But when you think, okay, what's my combo for overcoming tiredness? So it regenerates itself. For me, it's breathing. And it's a very specific type of breath that I go into sometimes. You know, I call it the vitality breath. It's a separate program that will talk about, you know, vibrant vitality, but it's a vitality breath. I do the vitality breath. Within 2 minutes, I am brimming with vitality, and just I become conscious of my breath, and it's regenerative. For me, I look for everything that is done with ease, joy, and grace. So my combos are ideally like 1 or 2 things as opposed to 10 things. Now I can take those 2 things and create 10 others just because I'm so vibrant and vital. But I don't look for a solution that has 10 things working together to get to the solution. I look for what's the easiest. And you will create your own, you know? You will create your own. And as you start approaching your decisions and choices from this regenerative standpoint, because you're honoring your own worthiness, you start becoming more confident in yourself. You start trusting yourself more. To me, it's like, you know, if you like jazz, I love jazz. And if you've ever been in the rehearsal rooms with jazz musicians, it is divine. It's heaven. Like everything goes, and there is such a perfect synchronization. And there seems to be some form of an unsaid, you know, rule that gets co-created, and everybody follows that. And they show up on the stage, and it looks like they are perfectly rehearsed, and they are, because they're rehearsed in the vibe and attunement to each other. So regenerative is the jazz attunement to all that makes up our world. You know, it's like we become this amazing musician that is playing out our piece along with everyone and everything else. And each one that we are playing it with is there to bring us out in our best light. And the orchestra that emerges, you know, lights us up as much as it lights up those that we interact and serve, or interact with and serve. It's a really cool commandment. And I've had a lot of fun working with it, even in some really tricky, dire situations. So you can too. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. I mean, you know, one of the other pieces that struck me. So I got over the corona. That was fine. You know, I'm negative. I've got my antibodies. All of that is fine. And then my building gets locked down. It becomes a containment zone because there are 10 people in this building that have got corona. So now I was isolated, and it was, you know, I could open the door and pick up my stuff. Now I open the door, it is actually sealed. You know? And that's going to happen. It's going to be that way for 14 days, right? That's how it was. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was at this point when I got my antibodies and stuff, I was like, great. I've got the immunity pass, as my son called it. I can go meet people. And then I'm like locked in for 14 more days. Regenerative, to overcome that disappointment was called for. And it was amazing. It was simply amazing how I regenerated myself out of it in a way that it continued regenerating. I just became an amazing chef. So at this point, I was applying my creativity to creating, a collection of like breakfast recipes that were all raw, how a drink could replace a breakfast, all sorts of stuff. What if my meals were only salads, And I was just really getting very creative about it all. And then really talking about a banquet, having a banquet, a physical banquet every day. And what if I applied that banquet technology to my mind? What if I applied that banquet technology to my presence? Where there was such a beautiful variety that I was present to. And the interesting thing was all of those tactics and strategies were so grounded in reality because you could see them. You could see the shift, you could experience it. So, I did what I did. The great thing is, it's something that any of you can do for yourself. You just begin. So that's the 6th commandment, a switch from sustainable to regenerative in every area of your life. It brings about, as a consequence, a switch from sustainable to regenerative in the environment that we cohabit together. Over to you, Catherine, for questions.
I just have to say, Mynoo, what was coming to mind when you were giving us the story of opening your door and it being sealed, I was reminded of when you mentioned that Gandhi would actually go to jail. And perhaps this regenerative idea was at play.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For those of you who haven't heard me share this, I grew up in a family of freedom fighters. So my mother's side, half of them were followers of Gandhi, the non-violence movement, and the others were followers of Subhash Chandra Bose, who was a revolutionary. So, my mother was on the Gandhian side, and she was quite young at the time, but she would spend a lot of time with Gandhiji. And one of the things that many of my stories about, as my bedtime stories were often stories of people from my family. And one of the things that my mom used to say to me was, I used to always ask, from time to time, Bapu is what they called him, father. So from time to time, Bapu would say that, I'm going to use a Hindi phrase and then translate it. He would say, jail jaane ka time aa gaya. It's time to go to jail now. And she says, I never understood why he said that. But every time he came out, came out after his jail episode, there would be something pretty profound that he would have come out with. Fast forward many years later, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm in business, and I make that connection, the dots connect. And I started implementing a strategy for myself that I called as managed solitude, where I would just in my mind go, okay, a lot is happening here. So many shifts are taking place and so many opportunities I'm faced with. It's time to go into solitude. That was like my jail. So what I would do is I would literally get into my car and take the car to a car park. So I wasn't there engaging with any big vista or anything. I would literally just be in a car park in the car, and I would go, okay, this is my time for managed solitude. And I would go, this is the issue I'm dealing with. These are the opportunities that are there. What's the strategy, that I'm going to emerge with? So, for Gandhiji, his managed solitude is where he would engage with, okay, what I wish to have happen is India has freedom in my lifetime. Now, what's the strategy? He's resolved about that. What's the strategy? What's the tactic that will get the maximum traction? And it was through his managed solitude that he got the, non-violence, civil disobedience as the foundation of what he did. And every time he would go to jail, like Bapu would say, it's time to go to jail and come out, he would have created campaigns like the Salt March, or, and I don't know what, creating your own, spinning your own cotton from India, as opposed to buying clothes that were being dumped on us. You can apply stuff in all areas of your life. So that's what Catherine is referring to. That was regenerative. Absolutely, right? Managed solitude is a regenerative strategy.
And I'm wondering, like, what's going to happen now with Mynoo, like, in jail in her own home for the next 14 days. I think we're in for quite a treat. We'll see what comes out on the other end. Well, we have some...
That phase is finished. Actually, from that emerged the 10 Commandments, by the way.
Well, there you go.
So now I am out. I'm at home today, but in a couple of days I'll be traveling again to Delhi, which is great.
Now you have the immunity pass. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions, some very interesting ones. This one I think might have been asked before, but it came up again, so I thought it was worth speaking about this. Can our destiny be changed, or is it set? And what determines destiny anyway?
Yes. So destiny is the destination. And the destination is inevitable. The destination that is inevitable that I'm talking about is soul merging with its soul being. So the destination of soul becoming soul being, like merging into a soul being is a given. That's happening. So the destiny is already taken care of. It's already there. That is the destiny. You don't need to subdivide it into astrological charts or anything like that, right? Everything else is an experience. Everything else is an experience. So can your destiny be changed? Well, this destiny is a given. Soul merges into a soul being. That's a given. You don't change that. Now, your experiences can be changed, sure. Every experience has a consequence. As a result, those consequences can be changed. So the most important thing is get yourself out of the trap of destiny. When we give our power away, well, this was destined. It is, if you say so. And, if it looks like I don't understand why I am in this situation, why am I allowing myself to remain here? Maybe there is some form of, soul level destiny thing playing out here. I invite you to consider, well, yes, there is some soul level agreement playing out there. It's nothing to do with destiny. Your destiny is your soul merging into a soul being, and that is set. It's done. You will get there. No question. You don't need to stress about that. Whatever kind of life you've had, you're going to get there. So that's done. Now, create your game. Play out the living of your life. That's my answer to this question.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer, Mynoo. Okay, we have another question that I'm going to just read this for a second here. How do we actually give ourselves the gift that we actually deserve something when deep inside we feel like maybe we're not really good enough. And I love that this taps right into when you opened with this whole sense of dignity.
So just repeat the question again. How do
we actually give ourselves the gift that we actually deserve something when deep inside we believe that we're just not good enough?
Yes. So, you know, the first thing is to understand what a belief is, because it is that belief that is within you that you're not good enough. That is what is giving you your experience of life. So can you imagine coming from that belief that I'm not good enough? You know, even in the choices of your actions, you'll be choosing those that give you the evidence that you're not good enough. So the first piece is to really engage with shifting that belief. So for that, it is important to understand what is a belief. Now here, I'm introducing to you a regenerative approach to changing your beliefs, right? So what is a belief? A belief is basically a thought that you think a lot of. A thought that you keep thinking is a belief. So given that a belief always originates as a thought, and then you keep thinking that a lot and it becomes a belief, then to change your belief, you just think a new thought. And you think it a lot, and it becomes a new belief. Right? So once you know that, you now focus on this whole good enough piece. I am not good enough. But good enough for what? For whom? Now we may then attribute that to I was never good enough for my father. I had that belief, for the longest time. I was not good enough for my father. And I spent a lot of my life wanting to be good enough for him. And until I got that, okay, a belief is a thought that I keep thinking. So what if what the choice I made is I just chose to step into the majesty of me. This little good and bad and stuff just disappeared. I was like, okay, every day I'm just going to step into the majesty of me. The majesty of me. How do I know that I'm in the majesty of me? I am aware, vigilant, and present to miracles. And what is a miracle? A miracle is something beautiful occurs that makes my heart sing. When my heart is singing, there's a miracle here. When my heart is singing, I'm in the majesty of me. A regenerative solution to I'm not good enough. And very real, because, it is very real. My heart is beating. I know it is singing. It's unequivocal. It's so. And then from that space, I can choose to look for what's making my heart sing, to make it even more groovy. And then this whole, what it leads to is, it's not that people don't have judgments, they do. And Catherine, you've seen me in my early days of, going through my spiritual awakening. You've seen me when my hair was just starting to grow out, right? So you can imagine, there's so many judgments, what happened to her? And then I changed my name. Why did she change her name? I could engage with reacting and responding to all of those, or even judging some of those that were being harsh about me, saying, oh, their opinion doesn't count. Well, does that keep me in the majesty of me? Not really. And before, I was giving my power away to those things, to those people, to those phrases, to those judgments. And it doesn't have to be that way. So shift your belief And you've already heard me say what the way is to shift your belief. And once you've shifted that belief, you just show up like that. Shift your belief in a regenerative way. Positive incantations are a fixing solution which help, but that's not regenerative. Regenerative is a shifting of belief. And doing it by knowing that what a belief is, which is only a thought. You created that thought, you thought it a lot, or somebody else created a thought and they thought it a lot, and you chose to create a thought of following that other person's thought, but you did it. So you do it again. And this time you do it for yourself in a regenerative way. That's my answer.
I'm going to actually ask the last question because we're running out of time here. We only have 6 minutes. But you said something earlier, and I think people would be interested to know this whole idea of the 9-4-6 breathing is certainly a way, right, for regenerative experience. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered if you could go into, for some of us who aren't always in the meditations, the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday meditations, where I'm sure you go over this in more detail, but what is it about that? How does it work? Maybe we'll even get to do a little bit of that. And then we will, get to see for ourselves.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yes, again, this is something that was a download, really, the 9-4-6 breath. As many of you know, I've been engaged in a very powerful form of breathing practice since 2010. I have my morning, it's literally 2 hours, 10 minutes routine of doing 13 different types of breaths that I do. But 9-4-6 was not a part of that. The 13 were literally like, my aerobic exercise equivalent, but applying the breath to it. And the 9-4-6 came about as a result of a time where I took a particular project of mine called the Palace of Extraordinary Miracles and took it to Wall Street. And now I was going to be in Wall Street for about 18 months, financing it, really bringing forth my business acumen, combining it with the spiritual foundation of this particular project. But it does get very stressful. And what I wanted was a way in which I could just step into my center, like literally at a click of a finger is what I wanted. It isn't quite a click of a finger, but it's very quick. And what emerged from that was an understanding that we have 3 brains. We have a mind brain, a heart brain, and a gut brain. The stress response is generated from the mind brain, which is oscillating between past and future. And it's oscillating between past and future because it's about survival. And that's necessary and fine. Where it causes stress is when that becomes the only way in which we choose to run our life, right? And when the mind can't see anything else, it just runs our life and we are just barely surviving. The heart brain keeps us in the now. And it's a mind that is affected by emotions. The heart is just in the now. And it's engaged in performing its function, and it pumps away, not affected by emotions. And then we have a gut brain, which is the custodian of all the wisdom of all our soul journeys. So we already carry that wisdom. We don't have to go look for answers outside of us. We just have to establish a way in which we can connect more deeply to our gut at the same time as being present and anchored in the now, knowing ways in which we can continue to survive. But working the 3 together ensures that we are anchored in the now, we are engaged in the real world, and we are drawing from our inner wisdom. And doing it in such a way that it is very practical and can be implemented. And I was looking for a solution that can be implemented with ease, joy, and grace. And I received the gift of the 9-4-6 breath. So you breathe in to the count of 9, you hold to the count of 4, you breathe out to the count of 6. And literally, you don't need to know anything more than that. This is not how you breathe all the time. You just do this breath. Anytime you feel any sense of overwhelm, you do at least 5 of these. Breathe into the count of 9, hold to the count of 4, breathe out to the count of 6. Your breath into the count of 9 can be slow, super slow, comfortably paced, or very fast. It's really up to you. It's that sequencing that is important, 9-4-6. What I do for myself is I begin my day with the 9-4-6 breath. So I do 3 sets of 10 in the morning. When I go to bed, when I lie down, and it's the last thing, I do another 3 sets of it. And if 3 sets of 10 is too much, then just do 1 set of 10. It basically means, you open your day with alignment and attunement of your mind, your heart, and your gut. You end your day by completing that alignment of your mind, your heart, and your gut. So it's a very, very simple practice, very regenerative in terms of vitality, overwhelm, stress. This was like a regenerative solution before I knew about regenerative to dealing with stress. And I used it in a very powerful, practical way in Wall Street. And I know there are a couple of people here who saw me in action during that time. So I could bring in very deep spiritual understanding at the same time as very practical, nuance level business plan related issues when I was presenting to Wall Street financiers. I love it that anything and everything that I do, again, this is a regenerative strategy. I'm always looking for being able to apply it in all aspects of my life. Because for me now, all days work, all days play. Over to you, Catherine. You're muted, maybe.
Sorry about that. I just love that. I'm so delighted and excited to go on this new idea of a regenerative binge and then share, and the fact that we can share these ideas with each other. We are out of time. We are actually a minute over time. So I don't know if we want to do one quick breath, or we just want to go right into sharing the words that are always so meaningful and special.
So my invitation to you would be just join Beyond Meditation. We do the 9-4-6 breath there. You'll pick it up very, very fast. So the next one is going to be on Saturday at 7:30 Pacific time, and that's 8 p.m. India time. And I think it is 2:30 in the UK. So I suggest we do the completion with the one word or one phrase sharing. That would be great.
And I'm going to put my glasses on so I can actually read these. So if you would all share one word, either of gratitude or what you're present to, or if you'd like to share a sentence, that would be lovely. And I'd like to read these to Mynoo. So I'm going to just start with Asha. I think this has been up for a little while. Without regeneration, you can never be alive. I'm regenerating all the time to keep me alive and enjoy. We have beauty, gratitude beyond measure. Great stuff. Thank you, Mynoo. Limitlessness, all abundance. Awesome. Regenerative. Another exquisite time spent with you. Awake and refreshed. Abundant, elevated by today's words. Abundantly, I should say. You look beautiful as always, Mynoo. Grace, constant regeneration, and waking up to wonderful newness and love. What a wonderful world to wake up to every day, every minute. Feeling such joy, appreciation, big smile. I love that, Lee. Aliveness, regenerative, I like that. Okay, a powerful reminder. Thank you, Mynoo. Magnificence, excited, So inspiring, Mynoo. Lovely to see you. Loving all your wisdom. Yes. You know, my word is always abundance. And every time I come, I just gain more and more and more wisdom and knowledge. And we have loving all your wisdom and alignment, rejoice, and much gratitude. Love all the wisdom imparted. Thank you so much. Peace. Much love to you, Mary. Good to see you. Jazzy thoughts. Jazzy thoughts. I love that, Cheryl. That's awesome. Cheryl, I'm glad you made it on. This is awesome. Wow. So, you know, it's this combination of just such deep gratitude and such abundance and joy and love. You have so many amazing people in your life, Mynoo. Thank you for bringing it all
I
together.
feel so blessed, and thank you. I mean, how can I complain about social isolation, really? You know, I'm here with my global family at least 4 times each week. Thank you. Thank you, Catherine, for hosting, you know. It got me out there.
Thank you for doing it. And we love each and every one of you. We will look forward. We have Surrounded by Beauty. We are surrounded by beauty because everyone on this call is so absolutely stunning. Just the essence of everyone that comes through. We're so fortunate to have each other. So I think it's time. It is next week. We'll be right back here with the 7th commandment. So we'll look forward to seeing you. Invite your friends, come. And then, of course, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, experience our 946 breathing along with everything else that Mynoo has to share with Beyond Meditation.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Love you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.